Hello, everyone. It's time for a scuttlebutt. Does my voice sound weird? It sounds weird to me. I am getting over a cold. I feel like it's done, except my voice sounds weird and my sinuses are still questionable. But I think we're good. Anyways, that'll give me encouragement to go a little faster in this week's scuttlebutt, which is actually the last 2 weeks scuttlebutt. Because, well, this kicked in last Friday night. So, and I often film this on Friday, but I hadn't had time last Friday. So, anyways, here we are. So I've got a couple weeks worth of stuff to talk about. Well, obviously the being sick. I'm filming. I don't think I've done I mean, the paint with Pyras are in this corner, but I don't think I've done a scuttlebutt in this corner. I just moved my desk chair over. Got Noah Colada here. I have not been working on this. It's just that the painting that was on the canvas is the official judge one that I'm working on for Paint with Pyra. And I'm a week ahead of you guys in terms of what I've done versus what I've posted. So I was like, oh, let's hide that. And just figured this one was bright and colorful and therefore fun. So what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, I cut my hair. I mean, the length is still mostly there, although like in the back, the longest points of it are still to the small of my back. So I did thin a lot of the weight out of it. And suddenly it's like, oh, I got layers. It actually goes woof as opposed to just anyways. So we got that. We got sort of interested a little bit through YouTube and stuff about the whole like Japanese Harajuku fashion and stuff. Not that I follow it a huge amount, but I do like the frilly sort of stuff, even though I kind of watch that and go like, yeah, but my background is being a punk rock girl and well, I say goth, but there is like a place for black lace and frills and stuff in goth, but there's a kind of more of a punk rock girl first and a hard rock girl first, and we don't do that, right? So, but I kind of thought, well, screw it. I'm interested. They look cool. Why don't I grab a couple? So I got this one off of just Amazon, like really crappy knockoffs, right? But cheap. And I think I've got one more coming. And then I was going to order some more to have a few variations. And I realized up there, I've done some rearranging. I know this all looks like chaos, but this is better than it was. And I have things in there's storage bins and stuff. These I got like 2 6-packs of these at Costco, so I don't know what brand or whatever. Oh my God, now we have squirrels. Filming this from this angle might be a bad idea in the daytime. I get distracted by like, mind you, at this point of the year, they're digging up crap that they planted in my garden, not planting it. It's in the fall when they're planting hazelnuts and all that. Anyways, this these are just clear storage boxes from Costco. I think they were like, I think they had them like 6 for $20 or something. That's Canadian. So anyways, I have 12 of them in here. So I actually have some stuff organized and then it won't get as dusty. So that's like the marker box. And then I've got a box of colored inks, a box of like crayons and well, that also has markers in it, but different markers. I got a watercolor and gouache box. I got my oil painting crap all down there because I don't do a lot of oil painting right now. That used to be in this cart, so now I freed that up, and I've spread my acrylic paints over this way. I do want to transition entirely into oil paint at some point, but it's not realistic for me right anytime in the foreseeable future just because of the storage factor that you have to have a place for oil canvases to dry, and they can take a month each to dry. Now, if you're working big and you're taking 6 months to finish a painting, I guess it's not that bad, right? But if you're working on multiple things at a time, like I like to, then it becomes a real problem. I don't think it picks up on the camera, but we have canvases stacked right below here, which also kind of block access to some chest of drawers in my filing cabinet, but that's okay because my filing system is currently just to pile things, so I got to get better at that. But right now, the canvases are all there. But because they're acrylic, when I'm working on them, I just leave them on the easel a few hours, and then by then they're dry. I'm gonna just take them off, put them on the ground. It's no big deal to have them, stacked multiples. Whereas if those were oil, that would be a major problem, right? Unfortunately, my house does not have a garage, or other space that I could convert into like a storage painting, like to have racks the way you would have in art school. Anyways, it's a whole thing. So I am doing the acrylic thing for now, and also ink in smaller works. What was where was I going with all this? Oh yeah, I started talking about the ribbons and the hair thing. Anyways, up there on the shelves, I have still some of my sewing stuff. So I'm looking, and there's like 9, not boxes this size. They're more like the shallower storage boxes that you get at Michael's for like scrapbooking. But I have those stuffed with ribbons and stuff. And it's like, a lot of the ribbons I have there aren't really ones that I would use for sewing, like clothes or whatnot, but they'd be great for making more of these. Anyways, that was a whole excessively long side note. That's how this goes. I get distracted by the squirrels and the fat robins and the hummingbird giving me the stink eye, and then I start talking about hair bows. Anyways, next thing on my list is studio reorganizing. I'll pop in, I'll check my last video. I think I had done some stuff like the shelves up there weren't fully done, but they were partially done, I think. But I did some rearranging and whatnot, so I think I have a couple photos from before I started piling canvases in front here, so just put that in. But I got my sewing stuff out and into my little sewing nook, which I think I have posted pics about before. So then I once the sewing stuff was out, then like papers and other art supplies could go up. And then I did some more tidying and rearranging, and then I was able to move the drawers and whatnot over here. I set up, actually, it's a table I had when I was doing music stuff, where it's like a folding base, and then you put a plank over it, which actually it's not a plank, but it's like thin plywood. I used to use this when I was gigging as Maclu. Not that I did a lot of gigs, but I would have kind of like a 2-tier synth stand on this side, and then I had this thing set up as a table, the plank on top, and I would put, my drum machine, a couple drum machines, a couple small synths like my Mofo and my SH32. So I would have that, and then I would have like a boom mic, boom mics are horrible, by the way, because unless you like can crank them, you have the hand strength to crank them so they don't bulge or budge. Usually it's like it starts here where you're standing up and you've got it aimed at your mouth, and then they would slowly, like I remember doing gigs where in order to keep singing, I was towards the end, like I'm like playing this synth with this hand and like this because the mic is coming down. Anyways, eventually I wised up and got one of those stupid Britney Spears headset type mics, and the sound quality on those is terrible. But, I was running my vocals through distortion units and effects pedals and stuff anyways, so who cares? And then at least I could like stand up normally, and anyways. But the point is I've had this setup for a long time, and I think actually in my old jam space, I had it where it was part of the setup, and then I would have my synth set up on top of it. And then when I had to go to a gig, I just like fold it up and throw it in my car. And anyways, the point is now it's holding 2 printers, little chest of drawers with different colored paper, and I don't even know what's in that tiny, like, decorative chest of drawers. I think that might actually be sequins, like, random little things over there. Um, and canvas is stacked in front of it. So I was doing some studio reorganizing. It's still a mess. But maybe sometime in February when I get it to not be as much of a mess, I might do like a studio tour video or something. Anyways, what else was I doing since the last time? Live streaming. I haven't been doing a ton of live streaming, but because I missed last week's show, that means I've had 2 more Tuesday night brainstorming streams. Last week's live stream, of course, I couldn't really talk. So I took the microphone off, thinking, put it down on the paper. And it's this microphone, right? Put it down on the paper on the sketchbook when I was drawing, thinking like, okay, well, I'll turn this into like an ASMR stream where I just shut up and I draw and it'll pick up like the scratchy. No, it doesn't. Because I think I have in the app controlling it, I think I have it on a noise gate. So what a noise gate does is it like knocks down any sound, and then when you start talking, it opens. So I really noticed it in the live streams where if I was quiet for a while and then I started talking, there would be and then like it would do this weird fade up. So actually the Pain with Pyra I just filmed yesterday or Wednesday. I actually went back to using my old, like 15-year-old Canon camcorder and no mic because I can then put it over my shoulder rather than filming with the phone. I have a viewfinder that turns around on it so I can actually see what I'm aiming at, and I can like, I have the head on the tripod so I can move it, I can zoom in or zoom out with the touch of a button as opposed to like having to get up and muck around with on the phone. And it's still like it's a 1080p camera. So the film footage quality is great. The first 2 Paint with Pyra where I was still working on the Ricky's still life painting. That was done with that camera, and I think the sound's okay. And I think the video quality is pretty good. Maybe it's not like 4K like this thing. Like right now, I'm filming on my phone. But then I don't think I don't know, right now, I don't think that's necessary for the type of stuff I do. But anyways, so I have gone back to using that camera for that purpose. We'll see when I do the editing. Maybe I'll think, oh, I made a huge mistake, but I think it's fine for Paint with Pyra. But anyways, the first 2 live streams, I was live streaming with my phone. But then when you live stream from your phone, and there may be a way to fix this before you go live, but you can't fix it after the fact. But like I had the phone so like proper horizontal, and YouTube went and did this, put it vertical. And I cannot figure out if there's a way. I don't think there is a way to take it and turn it unless I downloaded the live stream video, went to iMovie, turned it properly, and then, and even in iMovie, I think it's a pain in the ass. I think I have to do it in iPhoto or something like that. Barfed it back out and then re-uploaded it, but then it wouldn't be like it's the footage of the live stream, but anyways, whatever. Anyways, so I decided I had a document camera that I had actually bought for a totally different project, which thus far hasn't happened. But I figured out I did these tests with this mic and that document camera and the 2 ports in this laptop, which is the laptop. Laptops aren't really designed, especially this is just a MacBook Air, not really designed for streaming, but I did do some test videos, which I will insert now.
Okay, well, let's see how the quality is on this. Got that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and Noah looks confused because what the hell, he's not used to being in the document cam. go. So if I wanted to do this, or, whoa, no, that's not it. I am live. Let's raise the brightness there, eh? All right. So we got Noah from the last time. Let's try Noah from this time. This is really going to confuse Noah now because now there's two of him, but he thought there was only one of him, which means one of these is an evil twin. Who's the evil twin? Noah doesn't know. Neither does the cartoonist. Well, the cartoonist knows neither of them are the evil twin. They're both just cartoon test Noahs, whose only purpose in life is to test the audio setup. No wonder Noah looks so sad. That and his shirt is weird, and his shoulders are all slopey. And yeah, the cartoonist is being a bitch, eh? Anyways, I think that's enough of a live stream for now. I'm gonna go and play this back and see how it sounds. And I guess this footage will eventually find its way into Scuttlebutt, maybe.
Anyways, so as you can see, those were my tests. So the last live stream, I did the stream this way, and it seemed to work fine, other than nobody was watching. Which is fine. It was kind of funny because actually the stream before I had like, I think a total of 84 viewers and like, I think up to like 17 at the same time. I'm like, oh my God. It was probably like only 17 at the same time for like 5 seconds as they each went in and out, but whatever. It's kind of funny. Then the next stream is like one person. Because it keeps you from being arrogant, I guess, right? But anyways, so I think I've got, for now, the tech side of the live streaming. Okay. Anyways, so that was the live streams. I'm filming this on Friday afternoon. I'm about to, well, what time is it? In 2 hours, I'm going to be getting set up to do a new live stream on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern. But I thought, well, it might be interesting to do a live stream, use the document camera, and then just, move the page as we go and kind of talk my way through what I'm doing. This also means it's going to take longer. It's probably going to take an hour per page instead of like half an hour, but whatever. Just do a live stream, ink, and then, not that it, then I can show that I really can draw. Anyways, so that's going to be, the first one of those is going to be happening in a couple hours. Hopefully it's not a gong show, but we'll see. And then also then if I have my, Friday, it kind of keeps me honest and gets me to be making progress. I'm going to alternate projects week to week. So what I'm going to be doing, that by the time this goes live, I'll put a link below to the watch it later stream, link for the stream. But I'm working on Miles Marov's Pursuit of Happiness, which is a little book I'm working on with Ricky's girlfriend's half mouse, half rat cousin, Miles. And it started actually in 2023 and just kind of going alphabetically. So it's like little either vignettes from his life or vignettes from his life, and then he's like daydreaming about something else. So it's going to be jury duty, the letter J. And then I think what I'm going to do in between the spreads is kind of have like it'll kind of spoof, those kids' books where it's like J is for blah 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 blah. Where I'll have just like a silly little paragraph in between, but it's like Miles being a dick kind of thing, and working through the alphabet. So I'm doing that book, and then there's the book Ricky B Goes to Sea is my main graphic novel that I'm working on right now. And so right now I'm going to just switch off between Miles and Ricky week to week. And also there will be some Noah stuff. And actually next week I may, because I'm like jumping all around my notes, but the works in progress, um, the Noah's Archipelago, the first anthology. I basically all I have left to do for the inside is like 6 or 7 ink drawings, like bonus cartoons that aren't one of the regular cartoons, but they're cartoons that go with like the acknowledgments and the preface and you know, the bio page, like those sorts of little cartoons. So I might bang out a couple of those for next week's inking live stream on Friday. We'll see. Anyways, it's all long-winded. I guess this is what happens when I skip a week, eh? So moving on, finally. We'll do finishes first. So I have not done tomorrow's Noah's Archipelago cartoon. And when I say tomorrow, I mean when I'm filming. So like today's when this gets posted. We're doing that later this evening or tomorrow morning. But I do have 7 Noah's Archipelago comics, as well as last time I put it in at the end, but I forgot to mention anything about it. So on Tuesdays, we don't have an actual like comic, but I do on the noahsarchipelago.com website, which is very much still behind in posting the actual cartoons. But I am up to date on what I do on Tuesdays, which is the Diary of Noah Thorson. So it's like we go and we snoop through his diary, and there's always some sort of little illustration that goes with that. So I do have a couple of those as well. So we've got the arc about Ursula and Ricky. And Ursula wants to find out about cheesy rats because her brothers told her about it. And the whole reason why she cares is because she has to do this presentation. Well, she thinks of it as this big presentation, but it's 3rd grade. Let's go up and read like a 1-sentence thing to the class about what you think would improve the world, you know. But the class is going to vote for the best one, and whoever wins gets a sticker book, and Ursula wants the sticker book. So that's ultimately what this is about. And her brother Duke had said, well, if you want them to vote for your proposal, why don't you just have them tell them that you think the school cafeteria should be replaced with cheesy rats. And then we have this arc at first where the brothers are kind of talking over her about cheesy rats, but they're not going to actually help her with the homework because it's a research project. You go do it. So she asked her grandma about how do you do research, and Agnes said something about, like, well, you could ask experts. So then she's trying to figure out, well, what experts do I know? And then she has this idea, and that is when she goes and knocks on the door. Then we have Ursula and Ricky B, the rock and roll rat, talking, and so far we've gotten to the point where Ursula has told Ricky all she knows about cheesy rats, and Ricky has declared that, dude, we gotta go. So, anyways, and then for the Diary of Noah Thorson, the illustrations, well, last week Noah was longing for cheeseburgers because he's trying to get back into his tighter pair of leather pants before he has to squeeze into white leather pants for one of his wedding band's gigs. And so we have him looking longingly at somebody else's burger instead of his own salad. And then this week, Noah was longing for some color, and Noah elicits Ursula's help in the fabric store just to make a new like tablecloth. And the other things that's sort of a finish for today was that I've had hanging over my head for a couple months, going like, okay, well, longer than a couple months, but this specific part of this project, I want to release, self-publish anthologies of the Noah's Archipelago comics. I think it was the first 14 months. I used to do the text with a font that comes free with Procreate when you pay your $14 and use it on your iPad. Normally when fonts are included with the software, it means that the license is such that anyone who uses it can use it for any purpose, so commercial use is okay. But I had this thing when at some point in 2023, so this is going back a ways, but like I said, like 14 months into working on Noah's Archipelago, I was like, okay, I'm ready to do the first anthology, and there's something kind of nagged at the back of my head. It's like, you better check that font license. So anyways, it turns out the font I was using was not licensed for commercial use. So, like, kind of pissed at Procreate. Why are you putting in a font that's not licensed for commercial use? You guys didn't get the font license. Now, they have other ones that are, right? But I was not going to be fighting to track down whoever made this font, do like extra licensing and all this. I'm like, right? So then from that day forward, I started lettering the comics myself. Like, I would use the font as a guide track in hot pink, and then I'd go in a new layer and write in the text on top. So from that day forward, all fine, right? But I had over a year, I had 320 cartoons that had this effing font in them. So for the first two Noah anthologies, I have to go back and I have to reletter. Now, the first Noah anthology has 174 comics in it. I went, and it took a long time. I think I started it at the end of 2023, and then I got discouraged and I set it aside, and I did a little more in 2024. Got discouraged, set it aside. But that was my thing in 2025. Like, you have to get this done. So by the fall, they were all relettered, except I realized we have another problem. I was mentioning things like Lego and Barbie and whatnot, and these are all trademarks. And in theory, it's fair use because you're just mentioning them. But certain companies, Mattel, are known to be litigious. Now, maybe it wouldn't be a problem. Maybe it would be. Maybe they would want to be paid for, anyways, again, and it kind of depends. If you have a deal with a publishing company, the publishing company's lawyers go and handle that. I'm self-publishing. So I had to go back through, and I had made a list. It was something like 40 comics where I had mention of trademarks or potentially trademark, like magazine, proper names for magazines, like People Magazine, I think is a trademark, and all that sort of stuff, right? So I wanted to go through, and it's like, I mean, on The Simpsons, they do, Lisa doesn't play with Barbie, she plays with, I think it's Malibu Stacy, and that's a common way of handling it, right? It's like, we'll just make our own and screw you, right? So, but I had to go back in. I had already relettered all these things before I thought about this. So I had to go back through, and I had this list. Anyways, the last couple of months, or certainly the last month or so, that's been hanging over my head. Like, okay, I have to go back. I have to do these 40 fixes. Oh my God. I decided, well, let's get them started today. Come on, they're only going to take 5 minutes each because a lot of them it's one word, right? So you just have to open it, erase the thing, and it's like, okay, if we buckle down, we can do this in 3 hours because, 5 minutes times 40, it's 80 minutes. It's actually an hour and a half. Let's double it's going to be done in 3 hours. We just have to do it. So I go in today and I do the first one. That's fine. Or actually, I found on my iMac that I had a folder that said round 2 fixes, and there was only one comic. I'm like, okay, so there's like 39 I have to do. Fuck. Anyways, I go through and I start looking at, because in Procreate, I had just duplicated the original files and then into a new folder when I relettered. So I just start going through, made the list, or I made the list from the relettered ones that were on my iMac, but they didn't have the fix. I hadn't gone and looked because it's kind of a pain in the butt in Procreate. You have to go into the thing, you have the thumbnail, you have to click on it, wait for it to load, then you can read it. And then if you're going to make a list, it takes way longer to do it in Procreate. So I just scrolled through and find her on my computer. Anyway, so I open up Procreate. Lo and behold, 90% of their fixes had already been done. They weren't on my computer, or so I thought. Anyways, so I fixed the 10% that weren't fixed. And I just keep exporting. So now I've got 40. I bring them in, and then I suddenly notice after I've done this, but at least it did go fast. It was like, okay, it was already done. I just forgot to export it. Woohoo. So it was only going to take me, like half an hour or 45 minutes, right? And then I go through, and I suddenly realized if I scroll down slightly further, there was a folder that said trademark fixes. This is after I already went and exported all these files. Now, there were a couple where I had other things I had to fix anyways, but the point is, the content of the first Noah's Archipelago anthology is done. For all the rigmarole. And it was, like I said, it was hanging over my head, and it didn't need to be because it was actually mostly all done. But as of today, it's done with the exception of the copyright page because I need my ISBN number and stuff, which I guess I could get that in advance. I have to look into that, but I have to type that up. But basically, everything else for the inside of the book is done. I just have to grab my ancient, I don't know if it shows up, probably not, but in the very corner there is an ancient 2008 MacBook Pro, 17-inch, the big monster, and that's what has InDesign on it, because it has the Creative Suite 2 that I bought when I was still taking classes at BCIT. So anyways, I have the book. I think I had actually, in August, I loaded all the re-letters into it. Now I have to go and take my 40 fixes and my finished writing, like for the acknowledgments. And there's not a lot of writing in the book, but the little bits that had to be done are now done. Shove it all into there. When I get the bonus cartoons done in the next week or two, shove them in there. And then the book, the inside is done. I'll know the page count. Then I can do, once I know the page count, I know how fat the spine is, and then I can get the cover done. Ugh. But the point is progress. We are making progress. And lastly, for finishes, my little sign. It might sort of show in the back there, but I'm going to insert a video of what I did. And the reason for that is because in a couple Paint with Pyras ago, I realized that when I move the canvas around, or sometimes I'll take it off the easel and kind of have it leaned in, but where you could see that back wall, and it was just the blank peach, and I was like, I should have a sign or something. So I've got a sign with my Instagrams. Anyways, whips. So I mentioned the live stream and the brainstorming. So let's see just a few of the drawings from those, eh? So moving on, I am back in a painting class again. I missed last week's. It's like I felt fine from the neck down, but I also got into random coughing spells and like, I'll save you the sinus details because that's gross. So I didn't go to class this week, but I did work on my painting. Now, I think with the last Scuttlebutt, I hadn't actually done the reference image yet. So we will post the reference image now. And that is a collage I put together of photos from my old hard drive. So the back of that building was the back of Renegade Productions rehearsal studios at Second and Main in like I forget what year this photo was from, but I had a rehearsal space in that building from August of 2011 until August or September of 2016. So old thing. Um, the lights up at the top corner, obviously that's not real, but those are an amalgam of cell phone photos I took from like Motley Crue, Black Sabbath, and I want to say Rammstein, maybe. Um, Anyways, concerts I went to at Rogers Arena um, in the same time frame, right? Um, and then the vehicles are the Ferrari was one that happened to be next to me at when I was fueling up one July day in 2013, I think. And I remember the date not because of the car, but because that was the morning that a friend of mine and I went kayaking in Seashell Inlet, and I almost died. Um, so July 2nd, 2013, I remember that day. Um, this is obviously from before I almost died. But no, my kayak flipped over. I got stuck under it, and everything went black. Uh, and then things were still black, but I could hear some crazy bitch screaming like a lunatic. And then it dawned on me that the crazy bitch screaming like a lunatic was me. Um, and obviously, if you can scream like a lunatic, you're probably not drowning anymore. So you really don't need to be screaming like a lunatic. But anyways, it was one of those like we went kayaking. It was like a kayak lesson and tour around the bay. So the instructor had realized I was having trouble steering and was headed over to me, and a big wave flipped me over. So, anyways, if any brain damage happened, I don't think any did. I think I was brain damaged before then. Um, Maybe it's the autism. I don't know. Anyways, so that that sticks out in my mind because I know that was the same day as the day I almost drowned at Seashell. So, anyways, so there's that Ferrari, and then the truck is one we used to get guys who would steal cars and go joyriding would dump them in our parking lot because I think they figured there wasn't, and actually there wasn't at that point security cameras on the back parking lot, so it was just like this is a parking lot down an alley off of Main Street, done, you know. And anyways, I actually helped monitor the alarms for and alarm calls for that building at the time for, well, the whole time I was there for about 5 years. So it was kind of like my job to notice when a car hadn't moved for a while, and then like I remember reporting it to my boss, who was the business owner for Renegade, and he'd be like, "Yeah." Sometimes it would be like, "Oh, that's my friend Steve. I told him he could park there while he was out of town for a week or whatever." But usually it was, it's an abandoned stolen car. Call the cops. So they call the cops. The cops would come and tow the car. And anyways, so that truck was one of the stolen vehicles. Um, and then I drew in Ricky and Jeff. Now, so Ricky works as a runner for a recording studio, and Jeff is one of the mix engineers who often works out of that same recording studio. So, anyways, they're out having a smoke break in the alley. There's a very long-winded explanation for that reference image, but the current state of affairs for the painting will now go up. As you can see, I just have the grid done. But that's fine. I actually, this weekend, I should probably do some basic blocking in of color so that it's not just the grid when I go to class on Wednesday. And moving on, another grid that I did. You might have seen it a little. Well, this, I don't know how much this picks up on the angle, but we'll put in some video of that instead. So this is Miles. Miles does have a sideline, pretending to be an Elvis impersonator. Now, so the reference image is actually Elvis, obviously, but part of Elvis from one photo with the bottom part of actually an Elvis impersonator from another photo, and the bimbo girls screaming and all this. I am kind of thinking Miles isn't quite pudgy enough in this picture, but you know, Elvis used to wrap himself in saran wrap, like, because I guess they didn't have Spanx in those days. So, you know, like he would have people like he'd suck in his gut, and the assistants would go around and around him with saran wrap to, you know, squish him in, and then he'd get into his white jumpsuit. And oh my God, I mean, the jumpsuit was probably polyester, so that would have been sweaty and disgusting enough on its own without the extra layer of saran wrapped king. But anyways, so I guess Miles has done the same saran wrap thing. I mean, he's not super fat, but you know, it's kind of established lore in the Ricky B. Rat world that Miles does not skip second helpings. Anyways, so we haven't gotten any further than the grid on that one. Actually, we haven't finished the grid because I haven't drawn in the girls yet, but we're going to skip previous finishes today because I've already been, you know, what have I been watching these last couple weeks? The same crap, basically. Although I have also, I watched the Sophia Nygaard and some of her fashion stuff for her channel, which is actually what kind of reminded me about the whole Harajuku, you know, Lolita type of stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I had stumbled upon that a while back and gone like, oh yeah, it would be kind of fun to have like purses that have ruffles on them and all this. And then you realize most of it, when you actually go to buy it, almost all of it's vegan leather, which is to say plastic garbage. So, I mean, I think there are designers who do real leather and whatnot for that particular kind of fashion, but then those are really expensive and I'm cheap. So anyways, whatever. I've been watching I've gotten on a Sophia Nygaard kick. I've been watching Glass Goof, who's glass blower in I forget which town in Florida. He's in Florida anyways. Escape to Rural France, Four Eyes Furniture, Catherine Kay. Started watching Garden Dancer again. For a while I wasn't keeping up because I was busy, and then like they post a video every day, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this stuff in January when it's all dreary and muddy and gray and gross. I'm gonna catch up, and then I'll. Of course, I stopped watching kind of at some point in September, so it's still like fall cleanup and whatnot. It's not like the full like spring stuff, but anyways, I'm kind of catching up bit by bit. I'm still like 3 or 4 months behind, but I'm enjoying that. Anyways, what's coming up this week? Well, I mentioned the Noah's anthology. The inside's all done except for a few, like I think it's 6 or 7 bonus cartoons. I want to do old-fashioned like dip pen. So I will get those done in the next week or so, and then I gotta start working on the cover. Yay! Hopefully, I have the book finished, ready for upload in March, and then we start the stupid dance with Amazon about proof copies and whatnot. So you upload, and then you can get a proof copy sent to you. That takes 3 weeks to a month, and then you find what you screwed up, which is guaranteed that there'll be at least a couple screw ups. And then you fix that screw up, and then you upload it again, and then you get another proof copy. And I think you can go through, I think they allow you 5 proof copies. So then, which means it could take 5 months, but if you keep screwing up. But I'm gonna be really hardcore the, um on the proofreading and whatnot, and try and make sure I don't have to go through more than, say, twice. And then once that's done, then you can release the book. So hopefully sometime at the end of April, my book will be available. Realistically, it'll probably be this summer. But yeah, so that's exciting. We're finally making progress, and I'll finally have like a thing for sale outside of, paintings and galleries, but a thing that's easily accessible for sale. And then I gotta try and get back on track with doing maybe not daily reels, but 2 or 3 times a week, even drawing reels, and get back on track with the Ricky books. Because once the No Anthology is done, that's the next thing. Although, also, once the No Anthology is done, I got to start relettering the other 150 comics that will go into the second anthology. So, that's my couple weeks. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Chat at you again next week. Hopefully, I was going to say, hopefully I won't have as much to talk about next week. But I mean, I kind of want to have stuff to talk about, but I don't want 2 weeks worth of catch up, right? So anyways, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. And we'll talk at you again for Scuttlebutt next Saturday, but also Tuesday for the live brainstorming live stream. I was going to say Wednesday for Paint with Pyra, but I decided to start posting them on Thursdays again. For whatever reason, Wednesday is kind of a tight day to try and get stuff done for. So, but Thursday works better. So it's now getting posted at, I think, 3 p.m. 3 or 4 p.m. Anyways, Thursday afternoons, depending where you live, could be Thursday evenings. So, and then Friday for the inking live stream. So, anyways, I'll be blathering at you a bunch. Talk at you soon. Bye.